What was compelling to you about the original book when you read it?
I think without, again, giving too much
Yeah,
away,
Tom, this is hard, man.
yeah,
Like
this is
this is,
really tough. This is much
and
harder than talking about a Marvel show. Everyone talks about the Marvel spoilers. Those are easy to keep a secret because they'll kill you if you spill the beans.
how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Tom. Thank you for such a wonderful intro.
We're out of time though. That's it.
I know, brilliant. That's all I came to say, really. I'm gonna just, dip out of here, but thank you.
Um, my understanding of this series is that you agreed to star in it and be involved in the executive production of it without having read a script.
Yeah, that's true. It's not uncommon. I came into the development part of the show long before there were scripts. I met with Akiva Goldsman, our showrunner and writer, and he had this book that was The Many Minds of Billy Milligan that I read, and it completely blew me away. I didn't know that humans were capable of that kind of survival. Um, and I fell in love with the idea of playing the character. We started developing the scripts. It was originally going to be a true story. We decided to pivot to a piece of fiction to kind of allow ourselves to have some creative freedoms. Nothing frustrates me more than like based on a true story and it is completely different. So we decided to really just commit to a piece of fiction, and I learned a lot from it.
What was compelling to you about the original book when you read it?
I think without, again, giving too much
Yeah,
away.
Tom, this is hard, man.
Yeah,
Like
this is
this is,
really tough. This is much
and
harder than talking about a Marvel show. Everyone talks about the Marvel spoilers. Those are easy to keep a secret because they'll kill you if you spill the
well,
beans.
but aren't you like the guy who does that? Aren't you the
That's
guy who?
nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. Every time someone brings that up in an interview, I said, next time you interview next year when I have my next thing coming out, I want you to bring together all of the evidence of me spoiling stuff.
Listen, I don't have any evidence. Here's what I was told. Oh, you're talking to him about the show. It has a lot of spoilers in it. That's pretty rich. The guy loves to spoil his films, and I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's
But
crazy. I mean,
anyway,
the only time I've actually ever spoiled anything was when I revealed the poster for the Avengers movie, but that was a stunt. We designed that to be that way. And in doing that, I kind of solidified myself as this person who ruins films, which is a great feeling when you're an actor to be known as the person that ruins films.
it's like you're
Um,
a wrestler, and people thinking you're hitting people with steel chairs in real life or something
yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What was I saying? Yeah, I guess the book just for me served as a pretty remarkable education. As a young kid who's been working since I was 11, my education is somewhat non-existent.
What do
Or
you mean?
going to school and stuff like that. I was always working and I had other things to do, so I didn't really do much schooling. So for me to sit down with someone like Akiva Goldsman and speak to him about the human mind and psychology and the powers of what we can do to survive was an amazing experience.
Tell me about your character.
My character is Danny Sullivan. He is a very complicated person with volatile tendencies, let's say. He has the highs and the lows, and they're both on either end of the spectrum. He finds himself caught up in an incredibly complicated criminal case. He is accused of committing a mass shooting at the Rockefeller Center in New York in 1979. And it is about his road to redemption, his road to acceptance. He meets Raya Goodwin, played by Amanda Seyfried, along the way. And it's about this blossoming relationship. It's about acceptance. It's about being brave enough to ask for help. And my character is kind of the journeyman that carries the story.
I'm going to let you know that this interview is going to air after episode 5 comes out. So we can talk a little bit about mental health. We can't talk about the full twist,
Okay,
but we can talk a little bit about mental health.
fantastic.
And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about with you because there's a range of emotions from your character here. So he's bullied, he's abused. We watch his mental health unravel throughout the series. And I've heard you talk a little bit about the difficulty of playing a character like this. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I guess it's just putting yourself in the shoes of someone who is suffering from the results of childhood trauma and feeling those feelings on a daily basis. And, I'd be naive to say that I understand what it is he's been through, But I feel his pain, and I feel the hardships. Um, and it's taxing. It's waking up every day, going to work, and having to cry for 6 hours every day is a really taxing thing to do.
And you're telling me that in the past or in other roles, and this is something I've heard from a lot of, in particular British actors, there's a pride in being able to show up, do your work, and go to the pub or go to a restaurant afterwards and not have it affect you. But this particular role was so taxing and so emotional to you that you struggled a little bit doing that after when the day was done.
Yeah, I mean, there were times where I was struggling. I mean, that said, the content of the show was incredibly difficult, but the show itself was also incredibly difficult. Shooting in New York, shooting it period is really complicated. I had this crazy haircut that, was legit, and it was my choice. The studio didn't want me to cut my hair like that, and I decided to do it anyway because I thought it serviced the character in the best way possible. And it was tough to let go of him in the evening. I'd be in the shower looking at myself like, geez, you really look like this kid. This is really intense. So it was tough, but I got through it. I'm fine. Yeah. I'm feeling good and super proud of the show and excited to get it out there.
Listen, this isn't a welfare check. I'm not about to come take you, but I have heard some people say something like you just said to me before, that when you undergo a physical transformation of what you normally look like to play a character, especially if that character is dealing with any sort of trauma at all, because when you look in the mirror, you don't see yourself.
Sure.
You only see that character. It's harder to take that person off at the end of the day. I understand that.
100%. And, I lost a lot of weight. I had this crazy haircut. I was gaunt. I was tired. I was emotionally drained, and I'd look in the mirror and I wouldn't see the person that I would see today, so it was tough. It was a really tough one, this one.
I read something on the way in, but I wanted to ask you about it because you never know with these things, that it led to you taking a year off of acting.
Not really, no. Again, that's online nonsense, really. I was always going to take a year off. At a point in time, I had some really exciting projects on the horizon, so I was kind of on the fence. And then just after the show, I decided that I owed it to myself to just go home and enjoy some time with my friends and my family and move into my new house and finally call somewhere home. Since I was 16, I've been on the road living from hotel to hotel, out of suitcase to suitcase. So I just really needed some time to kind of get my life in order and organize my taxes and figure out how to pay my water bill and all that sort of stuff. I just needed some time at home. So my break wasn't really a result of the show. It definitely contributed towards it, but it was always going to happen.
I'm looking forward to your new podcast, Online Nonsense.
Online nonsense. God, we know there's a lot of it.
Online. Well, you know more than anybody by it. There's you know more than most. There's a fair bit of it. You mentioned you were acting since you were how old?
I think I've been acting professionally since I was 11.
Was that Billy Elliot?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
What do you remember from that?
Really fond memories. Really fond memories. Amazing people, hard work. I look back on it now and I'm amazed at how hard it was.
What do you mean, like rehearsals and...
We'd be training for 6 hours a day, and then you'd go to the theater, you'd do a 3-hour show. The show is probably the most intense show that on the West End. I don't think there's an adult doing a show that's more difficult than playing Billy. And I think probably the majority of people performing on Broadway on the West End would agree with me. But I loved it. Being on stage, performing in front of that many people, being good at it, and like feeling like you were accomplishing something was an amazing feeling. And to share that with a young group of people that I really admired, that, we're all in the same boat, we're all young kids performing on the West End. It was a dream come true, and also an amazing platform for me to base my career off of. I learned so much about working hard and work ethic and respect and professionalism from working on that show. So I owe a lot to the people that were involved.
I have a friend of mine who was a mandolin prodigy. Okay. And I asked him, and I said, what was it like to be this like child prodigy of the mandolin?
What's a mandolin? What is that?
It's like a little fiddle looking like, it's like a little tiny guitar. Like someone's handing you one right now.
Like a ukulele type thing?
kind of like that, but it's strung like a violin. There'd be one in like the Mumford and Sons or the Lumineers and those kind of bands. It's like a little
Okay.
tiny guitar about that big. It has 8 strings and they're doubled. And it's in bluegrass music and it's played a lot in Irish music.
Okay, great.
And a friend of mine he was a child prodigy on the mandolin. And I asked him what it was like, and he said the hardest thing about it was when I looked back on it a little bit, I was so pleased. I was so happy to get to tour and play festivals all over the world and learn the benefits of hard work. And he's quite a successful musician now, and he says, it's all because of that. And he said, however, there were moments where I wanted to play football, but I couldn't because I had to watch out for my hands. There were moments where I wanted to go to a school dance, but I couldn't because I had a gig. And I guess when you just told me that story about Billy Elliot, but I also just thought about what you told me at the beginning, which is that, I never got to go to school. I never got to have these more traditional things. Did you feel at all? I mean, you don't have to tell me, but did you feel at all like you were missing out on a more traditional childhood?
Not really. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have traded my experiences for anything. And the secret is you might be under contract and you're not allowed to go snowboarding. Guess what? I go snowboarding all the time. They just don't know about it. So like it's like I don't care. Like I'm gonna live my life. I'm gonna enjoy myself. I'm confident that I'm not gonna break my leg, albeit
Is
last
that
time.
real? Is that a real thing? They'll do that to you? Is that real?
Dude, the contracts you have to sign when you get into these Marvel things and they don't want you doing certain things, it's intense. And there's been a few times. It's been a few times I've got into trouble. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, not from spoiling movies, but okay. So,
Not from spoiling movies, but
yeah,
nearly from spoiling movies by breaking your leg and doing
right,
things.
right. But you didn't feel like you were missing out on it was you know.
No, I think I've had a wonderful upbringing from my two parents who I think, are superhero parents. They're amazing. I aspire to be like my dad one day. He really is like the greatest dad. Um, I have a great collection of friends from when I was a kid, before school, during Billy, after Billy. Now in my early 20s, I met a great group of guys who we've built this wonderful group of golf friends that we play with every week. All normal people most of them are carpenters. I met them because they build film sets and, they're great people. They're salt of the earth and I love them all to bits. So I have had such a charmed life surrounded by such wonderful people doing such amazing things. And I wouldn't have changed any of it for the world. And if I wanted to play football when I was a kid and I was doing Billy Elliot, you best believe I was playing football and I just wouldn't tell anyone about it.
I'm glad to hear it. I think that fame, especially at a young age, can be unmooring. And there are no shortage of stories of people who didn't make it out as successful, or when I say successful, happy and well-adjusted as you did.
Oh, that's very kind of you, mate. I appreciate that.
But you know what I mean, right?
I know exactly what you mean. And I have plenty of friends who I've come up with who, have changed and their lives are different and we have different outlooks on the way you should be behaving in certain ways. I think the biggest thing for me is that I never chased this life. I never wanted to be famous. I never wanted to be an actor. I just was a young kid who loved dancing and Billy Elliot kind of happened. And then after Billy Elliot, I got an agent. Again, I didn't look for an agent. She found me. She sent me to an audition. I didn't ask her to. She just found one. I went to it. I got the job. It was shooting in Thailand for 5 months. Who in their right mind is going to say no? I thought it'd be really fun. I ended up working with Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor and Juan Antonio Bayona, and it opened up this world to me. And even then, it was a hobby. It was something I was doing for fun. It was like a summer school. My brothers came. My mum and dad came. We had this unbelievable time away. And I just never stopped doing it. I just was lucky that I was getting jobs and I was lucky that I was enjoying it. I was lucky that I was meeting people that were good role models for me. And there came a time where I reckon I was probably 16 or 17. I had to look myself in the mirror and be like, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I was like, I guess I'll just keep doing this acting thing because it's great. I love it. I love the traveling. I love the people. I love the storytelling. I love the creativity. So it was never something I really decided to do. It's just something I've always done. And I think that probably plays a difference into my relationship with fame and the good things that come with it and the bad things that come with it, obviously.
you didn't have this childhood hunger with some, parent standing over your shoulder saying, you're going to be a star, kid, and you're going to, and all I ever wanted to do was be this, it was a job, it was fun, it was exciting, I was good at it. I felt like it brought meaning to the world around me.
Yeah.
And that protected me from some of the ambition-based stresses.
It was, in layman's terms, it was a hobby. It was something I did as a kid because my mum thought what a great thing for him to do during the summer. And then it became a career. And
it became a career, man. But like, listen, I'm cautious about talking about this stuff because I know you're doing a show which is brilliant and about like mental health and about crime and a bunch of stuff I can't talk about. And I'm not here to go like, so you have a show about crime and mental health. Who's your favorite Spider-Man? Like, I'm not going to do that. But I just want to acknowledge that the kind of fame that comes with Spider-Man and the kind of fame that comes with Marvel, I got a buddy involved in that thing. Like, that's on a whole other, you know what I mean? Like, isn't that on a whole other level?
It's another level. And it's one of those things where your life literally changes before your eyes.
Yeah.
People change the way they look at you. People change the way they treat you. They change the way, they act around you. And what's also interesting is there's levels to this. And after the first film came out, I remember thinking to myself, I don't know, 20. I was like, wow, I'm famous now. This is it. This is what being famous is. And then the second film came out and I was like, oh, wow, I'm like even more famous now. I didn't realize there was another gear.
Yeah.
And that was it for me. I was like, wow, this is it now. I get followed everywhere I go. There's paparazzi that sit outside my house. I can't have a relationship with someone without it being front page news. And then the third film came out and it kicked up to another level that has now been life-changing. And also, I've met some amazing people along the way that have helped me who have all been through this. And there's a wonderful network of young people who are going through this at the same time. And we all have this crazy bond because of, it's weird, like walking into a restaurant and everyone knowing who you are is a really weird feeling.
Yeah.
It's a really bizarre feeling, but I love my job. I love what it does. I love what I'm allowed to do and the things I can do for my charity and
I got you.
All the stuff. So I'm not in any way, shape or form complaining.
No. And you wouldn't, you'd be wrong to, and gratitude is assumed here.
Yeah. It's great. As long as that's coming across.
Yeah. But what's the secret to it not getting to you? What's the secret? Like, I'm not going to ask, you have a very private, important text group and friend group, and I'm happy about that.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. But what is the secret?
I think the secret is knowing who you are and staying true to yourself and not believing what you read about yourself online, because more often than not, it's not true. I think it was Christian Bale that said this. It really stuck with me. And he basically said, if you have a problem with me, text me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me. And for me, that's been really informative because it has meant that I really, really care about the opinions of people that know me for me. There have been times in the last 5 years where friends have been like, bro, you need to like chill for a second. You're getting a little bit lost. And those are the moments that are really informative. If a newspaper writes that about me, I'm like, well, you don't know who I am. Yeah. So I don't really worry about your opinion. So I just try and stay true to myself. I keep my friends really close, and I'm delighted to say that none of them are afraid of being honest. If they don't like my work, they'll tell me. If they love my work, they'll tell me. And I'm just really lucky that I have a great network of people that aren't going to lose me to this crazy world.
That's a beautiful thing. I appreciate you talking to me about that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for asking. It's nice to speak about it, I guess.
Let me close off this way. I want to go back to the show.
Thank you.
There's something that Amanda's character says in the show. She says, something about Danny just stays with me. After everything we just talked about, especially at the beginning of the conversation, is there something is there something about playing Danny that has stayed with you?
I think the most eye-opening experience about playing Danny and being a part of this show is that I reached what I thought were my limits, and I have a lot more to give. And I went as far as I thought I could go without breaking, and I realized I have a lot more. in the tank, and I feel like I became aware of things that I can handle and hardships I can take in my stride, and to deal with things in a professional way, not an emotional way. And I just feel like I grew up a lot on this job. I think, I've always been really, really young for my years. When I was a kid at school and playing rugby, like I really should have been 3 years below I was. And I just think from playing this character and diving into this role and working on this show, I learned a lot about how capable I am of dealing with certain things, and I'm really grateful for those lessons. Um, and ultimately, I'm really proud of the show, and I can't wait for people to see it.
It sounds like, yeah, you proved something to yourself. It's a beautiful
I
thing,
really
man.
did. Thank you. Yeah, I really did. I proved to myself that I can do it, and I'm going to do it again.
Hey, lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Tom. I really enjoyed chatting. Thanks very much.